I'd like to ask Melton Luttrell to come to the podium, please. Melton started calling in 1949. He joined Callerlab in 1974. He attended the first Callerlab convention and every convention since then, making this his 38th convention. In the past, Melton has served on the Board of Governors and the Executive Committee. Melton is also a Callerlab Gold Card member. Please welcome Melton Luttrell.
Thank you, Debbie. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It is the sort of the goal of the presenter of the gold card as well as the milestone awards, the presenter to sort of be slow in announcing the name. I noticed that Jim was quite quick to do so. So I thought I might use this approach. In trying to save a bit of time and save all the suspense, because if I tried to tell you about the person, there would be no suspense. I would ask you as a group, if I were to approach you individually, or in this case as a group, and ask you to think of one person in the square dance calling field who is the most recognizable person in square dancing, both by physical appearance and by name recognition. We already know who it is, don't we? Absolutely. Flip and Lisa, again, square dancing, way back in the early 50s. They were married and took their honeymoon in Brownwood, Texas. They bought their first home, and an amusing story follows. It was a little small, beautiful little home on 1918 Marshall Street in Abilene, Texas. It was pier and beam, wood structure. Those houses squeak at night when you least expect it. Very few people know this. Flip was a very, very good baseball player, supremely talented. Played shortstop for the amateur team, Abilene A's. Before that, he was a terrific bowler. This is all prior to his square dancing days. Flip and Lisa spent one of the first nights in their new home. Somewhere along the middle of the night, squeaking started. No doubt about it. And that's true. Did we lock the doors? Did we lock the windows? The only weapon available was a baseball bat. Flip grabbed the baseball bat. Nisha could find nothing but a Coke bottle. She followed Flip down the hall with her Coke bottle in hand, swearing that if he missed, she'd hit him for sure. Room by room, hall by hall, you know what happened. Absolutely nothing. Wonderful experience for the first night in your new home. Later on, Flip and Lisa became involved in square dancing. And all of you probably know by now the story of the auctioneer. Flip had decided to write his first square dance song and was trying to find a place to record it. At least that was his intention, I think. Maybe not at first, but later on. And it approached me about it. I had no idea myself. I did not have not a small record company at the time. But somewhere in Abilene, Texas, when he was doing a dance one night, there was a caller from Louisiana who happened to be there and mentioned to Flip that you need to talk to Norman Morbach. And so he did. And the final result was Auctioneer, which turned out to be, as I suppose, the best-selling square dance record of all time. At least that's what I've been told, but I can't authenticate that. But to get there, Flip and Lisa weren't particularly well-heeled in those days financially. He worked for the highway department. She worked for the telephone company. So after one night of calling at a dance in Abilene, Lisa's mother and dad drove Flip and Lisa to Houston after the dance, a 5 or 6 hour drive, so that he could be there the next morning to record Auctioneer, which he did. And of course, the rest of the story is quite favorable in his life. His own square dance club at home, in which he had helped to build a square dance hall called the Wagon Wheel, which is still in Abilene, of which he and 3 other couples, he and Lisa and 3 other couples became the majority owners. took up a donation to send Flip to Kirkwood. I'm not for sure the year, but I think it's 1956. He attended there, and I think the first caller at that time was Les Gocher. They went back the following year for probably Joe Lewis, and this is all vague to me now, and I certainly didn't research it down to that detail. On the third year, I think it was either Joe Lewis or Frank Lane as the lead caller, and he was approached by Bill Hagedorn at the recommendation of Frank Lane to hire Flippo to be the new staff caller for Kirkwood. 41 years later, he was still going strong. During that 41 years, some funny things happened. One being he and Lisa and another couple decided to take a trip to Cypress Gardens. Cypress Gardens, they rented a boat. They were sightseeing around the little place there in their boat. Did you ever hear the joke about the who bird? Yes or no? It's not proper to tell to an open audience. But if you knew the story, you knew what comes next. The birds are very large in Florida. Flip happened to look up at the wrong time. The who bird does what it did. All over his forehead and down his screaming face. It was one of those foul bird diarrheas in both smell and quantity. Does that sound familiar? There's another side of Flippo that all of you know. He never gets anywhere. He's too many people stopping and talking and visiting, and if you observed the front table tonight, there was an endless number of people approaching and patting and getting a word in edgewise. But there's a totally different side of him. His son John was born in 1963. 1963. Flip was calling at Kirkwood. Sue and I were there at the time, along with Frank Lane. It behooved Frank and Sue and I to get Flip on the airplane to get him home in time for the impending birth, because it came a little quicker than Lisa had expected. We managed to get him into Springfield and on a flight to Dallas-Fort Worth, from which we convinced him he'd never get to Abilene, because I said last Saturday night, Abilene was not the airline hub of the world. It's one of those things where you don't miss a flight and catch the next one unless you wait till next week. So he chartered a flight and got there in time for the beautiful birth of John and Shelley. Oh, John? Pardon me, Shelley, John. Well, another quick story. About 3 years after that in Kirkwood, John learned at the insistence of his dad to be a skier at the age of 3. Flip had taken up water sports, and he really took to it like a fish to water, learning to ski barefooted and do all the tricks that normal skiers do. He insisted John become as proficient as he was. They had a small boat with a small outboard motor pulling him up and down the lake relentlessly, trying to just get him out of the water onto the skis. Finally, you'd never believe this, but even Flippo has a limit to his patience. On a very hot summer day, he circled the boat back for the umpteenth time to pick up little John and say, "John, I'm tired, it's hot, you've got to get up. I am tired of driving this boat." John's only 3, and meekly said to his daddy, "Daddy, get Mama to drive." I'd like to take this time to interrupt the program and introduce to you John and Shelley Flippo. He got his dad's haircut. Tragedy, to a degree, happened after that. I think it was 1966 that John came down with, and the word is tough for me, neuroblastoma, and that's not good. They took him to the University Medical Center in, help me, Columbia, Missouri, a very prestigious university. Showing the side of you that you don't know about Flip for 6 months, almost daily. Flippo drove John for radiation treatments, an hour-and-a-half trip each way, almost daily. Never complained. Ladies and gentlemen, Marshall Flippo. Oh, here it is. Sorry about that. Oh, I do have to manufacture one.
You all know I can't talk very good, but things that have happened to me, especially this weekend, I told Wade Driver on that, he asked me if I minded being roasted, and I said, well, when? He said 2011. I said, oh, I'll be dead by then. Okay, Wade, I'll do it. Now I think I did die, and I'm in heaven. Which is a surprise to a lot of y'all. Anyway, I'd like to thank Melvin for the. Where'd he go? He's just been a super friend, and I really believe that I would not ever. We used to dance to Melvin before I ever started calling. And I believe that I probably wouldn't have been the caller if he hadn't encouraged me. Nice to see some say breathe hard. I breathe hard all the time. But I want to thank Milton from the bottom of my heart. You know that he presented a milestone thing to me. And I got to thinking later on, I don't even believe I thanked him. And so I'll thank you again twice. And anyway, it just been, don't look at me that way, John. It's been one of the greatest weekends I've ever had in my life. I thank you.